Episode 1. The Boy Who Didn't Hear God Until One Day. Nicholas Cole grew up in a house where Bibles were never dusty. His mom kept one open on the kitchen counter. Color faded from use. His dad's was worn and creased from years of men's group studies. Sunday mornings weren't a question. They were a rhythm. Church, lunch, nap, repeat. He sat in the same pew every week, sang when everyone else sang, bowed his head when everyone else bowed theirs. He just didn't feel much. To him, God was something adults talked about while he was trying to stay awake. What Nick did feel was the rumble of an engine under his hands. He felt the satisfaction of fixing a squeaky belt on a neighbor's car. He felt the easy laughter of friends in the parking lot after school. He felt the nervous thrill of holding a girl's hand at the movies. He liked normal. Normal felt safe, predictable. Calling, destiny, purpose. Those were sermon words. Church words. Not words for a guy who just wanted to graduate high school, maybe become a mechanic, maybe not think too hard about the rest. This Sunday felt different. Sitting in the kitchen with his mom, both in deep thought, Nick said, "Mom, I don't feel like I hear God like you do. I'm about to graduate and I don't know what I'm supposed to do." His mom smiled and confidently said, "That's normal. God talks to us at his time, not ours. Trust that he loves you and will guide you at the right time." But to Nick, it just felt like the same churchy response he'd expect. He just didn't understand any of it. When they arrived at church, the sanctuary smelled like the same pine cleaner and perfume. Sunlight poured through the stained glass windows, throwing patches of color across the aisle. Nick slouched at the end of the pew, thumb flicking over his phone screen until his mother gave him a look to put it away. The pastor, a man in his 60s with soft eyes and a voice that carried, stepped to the pulpit and opened his Bible. "Today," he said, "I want to talk about calling." Nick almost groaned. The pastor read, "Jesus saw two brothers. Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, 'Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men.'" The pastor looked over the congregation, and for a moment, it felt like he was staring straight at Nick. "Do you know where God is calling you?" he asked. "Or are you too busy to listen?" Nick shifted. The pastor went on. Peter and Andrew were normal men. Hard-working. Ordinary. They were not looking for God's voice that day. They just wanted to fish. But, little did they know, God was looking for them. Some of you feel like you've never heard God speak. You're confused. You think, maybe calling is for other people, not me. Well, I have good news for you. If you're breathing, God has a plan for you. Don't waste it. Don't miss out on the blessings he wants to pour into you, and through you, into others. Nick stared at the pattern in the carpet, jaw tight. If you're breathing, God has a plan for you. It sounded nice, in theory, but it also sounded like it was meant for someone else. The choir began to sing, and somewhere in the second verse, Nick's mind drifted back to cars and girls and escape. A week later, Nick sat across from his guidance counselor, staring at a stack of college brochures that meant nothing to him. "You don't have to know your entire life at 18, she said. "You can start small. Community college. Trade school. Time off." He took a handful of brochures, but the words slid past him like water. As he walked out, the counselor said, "Wait, take this one too. Think about it." Nick took it. "Start your U.S. Navy journey." It read in big bold letters. "Yes, ma'am, I'll think about it." "Thank you," Nick said reflectively. That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, his chest felt tight with something he couldn't name. He thought about leaving his small town. He thought about doing something that mattered. He thought about never sitting in that same pew again. Restless, he tossed over on his side. The Navy pamphlet was in his direct line of vision. It was lit by the moonlight shining through his window. He closed his eyes and contemplated what his life would be like as a sailor, and he drifted to sleep. 2 days later, he walked into the neatly organized recruiting office. The air smelled like coffee and printer ink. Posters of ships and jets and uniforms lined the walls. A man with a trimmed mustache and happy brown eyes looked up from a desk. "Afternoon. I'm Petty Officer Peter Reyes," he said. "And that's Petty Officer Andrew Davis. You here for information, or are you ready to change your life?" "Peter." "Andrew." Like the brothers in the sermon. Nick swallowed. Maybe both, he said. So, they talked. About service. Travel. Discipline. Benefits. Andrew didn't sugarcoat the hard parts. But he didn't flinch from the honor of it either. At some point, Andrew said, leaning back in his chair, you gotta decide who you want to be when things get hard. The uniform doesn't magically make you someone else. But it gives you a chance to grow into it. You get me? Nick looked at a glossy photo of a ship cutting through an endless blue sea. I think I do, he said. When he signed the papers, his hand shook just enough for them to notice. Cold feet? Andrew asked. Just, big decision. Peter smiled. Big decisions are where God does some of his best work, he said. Nick froze. Are you religious? He tentatively asked. Peter shrugged, still smiling. Let's just say I've seen enough storms to know we don't steer alone. Time to go. The day Nick went to basic training, the sky was the color of wet concrete. His backpack felt heavier than it should have. His mother hugged him first. She clung to him so tightly he could feel her heartbeat racing. I'm so proud of you, she whispered, voice trembling. Remember what Pastor said. Look for God in places you don't expect. He speaks in ways that reach us, even when we're not actively listening. Promise me you'll keep your eyes open. I will, he lied, because he wasn't sure he believed God would bother. His dad shook his hand, then pulled him into a hug too, pressing something small into his palm. It was a thin, navy blue Bible. Keep it with you, his father said. Even if you never open it. Just keep it. Nick nodded, throat tight. Thanks Dad, thanks Mom, love you. Nick said, giving them both one last hug. He walked up the bus steps, sat down on the hard leather seat and closed his eyes. He thought about his girlfriend. She'd said goodbye the night before, eyes red, voice flat. I can't do this, she'd said. I'm not built for waiting. I'm sorry. He nodded, numb, and let her go. Now, sitting on the bus with other recruits, clutching the Bible, Nick felt like someone had quietly swapped his entire life out when he wasn't looking. The bus door hissed closed. As he climbed aboard, his mom called out one last time. Nick, remember? The bus took off, gravel cracking. He managed a half smile he didn't feel and waved back. The town shrank in the rear view, and the road to something else opened up. Hope. At least he was moving, at least there was change. Nick didn't think he was running away from God. He thought he was just leaving home. But God has a way of boarding ships he hasn't been invited onto yet. And this was only the beginning. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content. As this channel grows, an increasing portion of proceeds will support veteran nonprofits. Stories with Heart and Honor by R.A. Hart.